Hi, my name is Rob Scott from UC Today, and welcome to our March edition of our Microsoft Teams news update. So, as always, I'm joined by Microsoft Teams expert and co-founder of Empowering.Cloud, Tom Arbuthnot, and together we're going to be talking through the most popular Teams headlines. Plus, after the news, we're going to be diving into some of those hot topics with our panel of experts today on the line as well. So, welcome, Tom. How's it going?
Yeah, really good. Yeah, it feels like really busy. I can't believe we're in March already. It's all go, but all good stuff.
Did you just read what it says on my screen? Because I was going to say, I can't believe it's March already. And I think Scott on the line's already said that to me as well. So it seems the year has gone a bit wild
short
already.
February month. You're like, oh, we're finished already. Okay.
Oh man. It's been extremely busy, hasn't it? But and so, you know, what's new in your world? I mean, I know it's very, very busy in the Microsoft space as well.
Yeah. It's been good. In Empowering Cloud, we're doing really well. It's just tons to do, but I'm really excited. We just hired a new person to be a full-time senior analyst, so we're spending a lot of time doing research around Teams ecosystem, and I'm excited to take on somebody who I worked with previously at my previous role, so lots more focus on kind of PSTN options, devices, contact center recording, because we want to dive really deep into that stuff and really understand kind of what the market options are. So yeah, really excited for that.
Oh, fantastic. Well, yeah, I'm interested to see how that rolls out and all those insights that you glean from the ever-expanding ecosystem of Microsoft Teams. So
yeah, never a dull day, especially when you add the ecosystem to Teams. It's there's so much going on, so much innovation and competition. It's exciting times.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, last month we talked about a whole bunch of stuff around Teams Premium being launched. We talked about devices on show at ISE in Barcelona. And we also talked about some of those possible use cases of ChatGPT in Teams. So, I mean, lots more announcements since then. So, I mean, first of all, top of my list this month, Tom, is all these features that have come out surrounding Microsoft Teams Rooms and on Android specifically.
So in Microsoft Teams Rooms, we've got two options. We've got the Windows option and the Android option. And traditionally, the Android option has been a little bit behind Windows. Windows came to market first. Windows has some of the more advanced features. But in this update coming, which is User Experience Update 1, catchy name, it has a whole bunch of features being added. So it's got a Meet Now button coming, joined by meeting ID and passcode, which is something a lot of people like for just running into a room and typing in, particularly in Asia, that seems to be the default way for them to join meetings over there. Room reservation extension straight from the meeting. Front row, which has always been a Windows exclusive feature, is coming to Android as well. Some new abilities for HDMI and USB content ingestion to be either automatic or manual, depending on if you've got a PC in the room full time or if you want to plug something in and have it automatically show up. Also, sound in from HDMI, another often common customer request. I want to plug in and play something through to the meeting and have the sound go through. We've got some new options around touchscreen displays and watermarking, which is part of Premium. So having essentially the email address of the attendees over the video and the content, that will come to Rooms as well. So it'll be the Rooms address. But obviously, if anybody takes a picture in that room of the screen, that will show up in the picture as knowing at least which room it was.
Interesting. So is that the use case for watermarking meetings? I mean, specifically,
it's a security use case. So it's part of Premium, so it doesn't affect the room license. But if the person organising the meeting has that license, what happens is every attendee over both the video feed of the people and the content, it will have their personal UPN, their email address, plastered over it, so they can't really get rid of it. So it stops that screenshotting or taking a photo with your mobile. It's quite a good way to dissuade leaking of that information.
Absolutely. Great. Well, and this is just for clarity, this is User Experience Update 1 for Android in the room environment. Are we going to see that, outside? Is there another update for the kind of Windows interfaces?
Yeah, Windows has a lot of these things. So Windows and Android are both rolling up into the same engineering org and engineering leadership now, which is nice. So we're starting to see, as much as possible, those worlds converge. They'll never be identical because there are certain things that are easy to do on an Android chipset and some things that are easy to do on a Windows Intel-based chipset. But a lot of these features are already in Windows, and it's really Android leveling up.
Great stuff.
It's interesting, and I totally agree, Tom. I think between the updates that have taken place on the Windows side recently from a look and experience side that brings some consistency to the Android experience, and major updates coming on this forthcoming update with the release on Android. We've definitely hit a place where, Android in no way can be considered kind of second-class citizen. I think you could have argued for a while that that features, I guess this feature parity discussion that we've talked about a lot. Parity is probably not the right word. I think as you said, there's just going to continue to be things that are easier on one platform or another. And I think at this stage, you could argue there's certain advantages and even certain features that exist on the Android side that don't exist with Windows. And there's still some nuanced features on the Windows side, like coordinated meetings with Surface Hub and things like that. But from a baseline functionality perspective, this really brings us to a place where either of these platforms are delivering the majority of the functionality that everybody is looking for out of a modern room system. So super exciting, and also just really, really clear the amount of effort that Microsoft is putting into both Windows and Android versus what felt more Windows focused for a long time.
Yeah, it definitely feels like Android is absolutely a first-class citizen. And you mentioned the Windows getting updated to kind of reflect the Android-like UI. So from a user experience, end user experience point of view, you shouldn't really be able to tell if you're in a Windows room or an Android room. It should be basically the same experience for you.
Yeah, that certainly that idea of it not being mutually exclusive, that taking advantage of the cost and form factor of some of these Android devices, potentially in certain types of spaces, and maybe Windows and others, is now a realistic option where it kind of felt like you had to go one way or the other in the past.
Great stuff. Well, a nice segue as we've gone from Windows to Android and now over to Apple. We're going to talk about their new Apple CarPlay press to join button. Is that right, Tom? What's happened there?
This is a really big deal, actually, and like loads of people are super excited about this. So Teams has had Apple CarPlay for a while, but it's been basically pretty much useless. Like, you plugged it in and you could see if you were in a meeting, and you could kind of make a call via Siri. But the thing that everybody wants is the ability to see their meetings and click to join, basically. And that's what's coming. We'll get a calendar view of all our meetings, and it'll be one press to join the meeting. So really nice experience. Obviously, you're in a car, be safe, minimize your messing about with your in-car equipment, etc. But I mean, the reality is, if people are going to join meetings in a car, it's better they join it on their Apple Play with one click than mess about with their phone. So I think it's a good step forward.
So I'm curious, how does that work then? I got to say, I'm an Android user, and I do like my Android CarPlay edition or whatever it's called. But I've never joined a Teams call through Apple CarPlay. Does it just connect the audio, or how does that work?
Yeah, no video, just audio. So you plug in your phone, or some modern cars have wireless Apple CarPlay, and it's an app. So the app appears. If you click the app, the default view now will be your day of your calendar, and you'll see your meetings. And if they're a Teams meeting, just tap and it jumps in for audio only.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I'm definitely going to have to give that a try at some point. But
I'm going to have to get you over to the Apple side.
Yeah, I might try it when I'm stationary to start with, just to make sure. Anyways, next up, we said we'd talk about Teams PowerShell 5.0. What's happening there?
Yeah, so a big update for Teams PowerShell. So this is the command line for administrators to manage Teams. And there's a whole bunch of kind of techie details, but essentially there's new filters and capabilities to grab subsets of users. So if you're dealing with environments with thousands or tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of users, the ability to filter by the users that have this attribute or that attribute, like their site name or a subset of their names or their department, things like that, that's all got a lot slicker. So if you're in a big environment, definitely have a look at that new PowerShell 5.0. It's unlocked some ability to manage your environment a lot easier.
Okay, Tom, so next up we said to talk about Microsoft Teams explicit recording consent meeting policy. Some changes here. What's happening there? Yeah,
this is really interesting. It's a bit of a niche use case, but right now you can either completely disable recording in your environment. So this is not compliance recording. This is kind of basically the ability to choose to record a meeting. So the presenter chooses to record. It's either on or off. This new capability will mean that everybody in the meeting has to agree to be recorded, like explicitly agree, click a button. So it's not for everybody, it's an optional policy, but for environments where they want to be 100% sure that everybody had the chance to vote yes, I agree to be recorded, they will be able to press a button. And if one person doesn't press it, the meeting doesn't get recorded.
That could get pretty tricky, I'm imagining, in those calls where there's always one, right? So
yeah, and you can control these policies on a per user basis. So if you're doing like an all hands that you intend to record, this is probably not the policy for you. It's more the case that in a lot of, so I work with quite a few legal companies, and they're fairly strict about these kind of things, as you'd expect. So now, rather than having recording completely disabled, which is what most of them do, they could have it enabled, but they know that during that meeting, be it internal or external, everybody explicitly said, yes, I can get recorded. So it's a step up from them not having recording. I think if you've already got recording in your environment and you're happy with the way that it already banners and tells you you're being recorded, you probably wouldn't go to this policy, but it's more for people who haven't got recording who want it.
Superb, right? Great stuff. Well, moving on to, I think it's maybe last news update for today, but it's all about Cisco and Cisco's WebEx contact center. What's happening?
Yeah, so Cisco and Microsoft are now best of friends, it seems. So we've got Cisco certified devices in terms of the Teams rooms now being Cisco certified and Microsoft certified. We've obviously had SBCs for a while, and now Cisco's WebEx contact center is certified for integration to Teams as well. So that's their WebEx kind of cloud contact center connecting directly to Teams.
Ooh, so I mean, lots of contact centers connecting to Microsoft's Microsoft Teams and Microsoft environment. Is there anything special about this, or is it just again another contact center?
Yeah, nothing particularly special about this versus some of the others, but just interesting to see again the powerhouse that is Cisco deciding to proactively integrate with Teams. So I think they're keen to show they've got a decent wrap around Teams in terms of the devices, the contact center, the voice environment. And again, it just shows you kind of the juggernaut that is Teams, that people are wanting to be integrated, so they're part of the conversation, I think.
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
It, Tom, would you say part of the conversation, or is it a little bit of protection? You know, if we're seeing Teams really truck rolling, and is it that actually it is a great contact center, the WebEx offering, and so actually it's a sustainable revenue stream for Cisco if some of the other components are going to fall away, and actually people are predominantly going to be using Teams for voice calling, that they can continue to have devices and a recurring stream of revenue that's attached to contact center, because otherwise just selling devices, that's not a world that Cisco want to be in. Well, certainly not anymore. I'm sure that's where they started, but these days it's all about that recurring revenue, and I think this is a great option.
I think you're right, Scott. Yeah, it's a conversation that if they're an existing Cisco voice shop, as you say, voice and contact center, they hold on to the contact center, and the same with the devices. They want to hold on to those devices. If you're buying net new greenfield and you weren't a Cisco customer, would you jump straight to a Cisco contact center? Is a good debate. But I think you're entirely right. It's about staying in the conversation as much as anything else.
Yeah, it's really unblocking, I guess, from a Cisco customer perspective, that desire to move to Teams, because contact center has always been one of those areas that created a lot of paralysis and a lot to think about. And so the idea that you could not make a change there and move to Teams for a customer that's wanting to as well is just huge.
Yeah, Ryan, you hit the nail on the head there. I think we discussed this recently in another podcast with some analysts, and that was certainly one of the things that came out of that conversation, that they just released their quarterly figures. WebEx revenue is actually down a little bit. And, what's correlating with that is that Microsoft's numbers are up quite considerably. And I think there is somewhat a defense strategy in there, or, a retention strategy being played out there. So why not? I think everyone else is doing it as well. So it's just because it's Cisco, I think it's more interesting, I suppose, for us to talk about it, isn't it? But certainly. In terms of next up on our list, Tom, we said we talk about maybe events. I mean, we've got quite a few events coming up. First one's Enterprise Connect. Yeah,
Enterprise Connect, end of the month, 27th to 30th of March. So there's going to be a few announcements there, which should be quite interesting. I'll be there knocking around, soaking up all the news. So we should have a big update in our April show of whatever has been dropped news-wise Enterprise Connect.
Yeah, expecting quite a lot come through from EC. We've had quite a lot of vendors in touch with us. Lots of announcements seem to be coming back now to Enterprise Connect.
Yeah,
so,
lots in the
I'm
contact
sure.
center space as well, which is interesting. I think the UC space has got a bit, kind of samey in a way. Like there's nothing revolutionary, but contact center, AI, CX, very exciting stuff happening there. So interesting space to watch.
Yeah, I did notice a homepage of Enterprise Connect today. I think it was today, actually, that when I would clicked onto the homepage, it actually says it's now an enterprise communications and CX event.
It does feel like it's pivoting that direction. I think last year was very CXy as well. I think it's just where a lot of the excitement is. And AI, I think, while it'll be interesting in the knowledge worker space, the CX space is going to be massively impactful.
Yeah, and there's absolutely more margin to be made in the CX space
it's
right
still
now.
a very competitive space.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well, next up, we've got a Teams fireside chat. Tell us more.
Yeah, that's our monthly online show. So we've got Nikki Chappelle this month just going through like all the compliance and kind of certification stuff around compliance, which is a really interesting topic that I think a lot of people in certainly my traditional space of the kind of voice and video you see are not super hot on. She's awesome at that. So that should be a really good one. Superb.
And in April, we've got Teams Insider.
Yeah, so Teams Insider Show, that's my new podcast. I've got Vandana Thomas actually coming out. So by the time this podcast drops, that should be out as well. She's the product manager for Teams Phone Mobile. So we get into how that's impacting the market, what's going on, a little bit of background about her. So if you're into more of the weeds around Microsoft Teams, Teams Phone Mobile is going to have quite a big impact. I think so that'll be an interesting pod to catch. It's teamsinsider.show.
Great stuff. So we'll look forward to those events, and there's lots more coming down the line. We'll keep you updated as they come up. Okay, so let's open up the floor to our panel of Teams experts today. Tom, I mean, first of all, there's been a couple of device updates. I wanted to talk about those. I don't know much about those, but maybe we could firstly introduce those and have a quick chat.
Yeah, so most of the device news came at ISE last month. So we had a lot then, but since then we've still had a couple of device updates. So Jabra launched their Speak 2 speakerphone. So if you've been in their space, you've seen those Jabra pucks forever. Apparently there's 9 million of them in market, which is pretty amazing. Doesn't surprise me. I think I've got one of each model knocking around. Like, ironically, I've still got the 410s. There's like one of my go-to devices, which is a really old one. So it just shows the kind of strength of those devices. But the new ones are, as you'd expect, better mic arrays, like cleverer noise cancelling, normalization. So the smarts in those devices are just going up and up. And the other device that's interesting is Bang & Olufsen are bringing out over-ear headphones, and will be bringing out some in-ear headphones for Teams. So a super premium brand. They initially launched some Cisco collab a while ago. I think it was maybe more than a year ago. And we've been waiting. I've been talking to them behind the scenes for quite a while about their team stuff, and they've just been waiting and tuning it and getting it just right. So interested to get hands on them. And it's interesting to see brands like Sony and B&O and Bose like really getting into the Teams devices space, where apparently the execs are asking for that kind of, consumer, prosumer, high-end audio. I don't know, Ryan, you probably get a good view of this from your point of view. What do you see in terms of that space?
Yeah, I think that there is recognition in a big way at this stage that that one size doesn't fit all, from a device perspective, and particularly from a hybrid perspective. I don't know that these over-the-ear kind of high-end devices are kind of the mainstream, what most organizations just purchase for everyone. But it's great to have them. I think they're a really important part of the ecosystem, and it's great to see Bang & Olufsen coming in. That Bose is actually discontinuing, from what I understand, the 700 UC version. So it's great to see a replacement, and with Sony coming in, it's great. Yeah, great to see some devices coming in on the high end that can fill that space.
Yeah. The in-ears are interesting as well, because like obviously you've got a lot of competition in that space now. You've got the Logis, you've got the Jabras. Like, it seems like a lot of people, I think AirPods have steamrolled that whole market, but people want an enterprise variant of those things. Actually, I think, Scott, you've got the Jabras, haven't you? I saw you reviewing them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've lived off the Jabras. It was originally the 65Ts for 18 months, and then they brought out the Jabra earbuds 2, and they're just phenomenal. They're so light in your ear now. They really do kind of lock in. You get that physical noise barrier, the active noise cancellation. Sorry, not a sales pitch, but they are just phenomenal earbuds. And when I compare those to some of the premium brands like your AirPods 2 and things like that, for enterprise and for Teams calling, these things are just far and away better than anything else. And I always find it funny when somebody like Sony or Bose or somebody like that is saying, hey, we're going to make some Teams headsets. I'm like, oof, that's going to cost a lot of money. But these Jabra earbuds too, they're about £350, about $400 just for the earbuds and then the charging case and all that kind of stuff. So they're already, there's already a good space for premium products here. And I can see, someone's, used to, maybe they're a bit more of an audiophile, like you said, Tom, a prosumer, that they really want the Bose. That's their, that's their tweaked audio for their, when they're listening to their music and that kind of thing. And if that then has Teams functionality, it's a perfect match, right? It's a great device for them. So I think it's really exciting to see this stuff coming through.
Yeah, it's getting those execs off very often the AirPods. They're the problem. And if you can't tempt them away with something they think is slick and fancy, then you haven't got that option. So yeah, the high end stuff has definitely got a market. It's not cheap, as you say. You need to invest, but if people are working in all sorts of scenarios now and audio quality matters, I think it's one of the best investments you can make.
Well, Scott, I couldn't.
Go.
Sorry, no, couldn't agree more. That this current round of true wireless, both Jabra's, Buds, what Logitech has done, what forthcoming products from Poly that they've announced, but in general, I think we're at a whole nother level because that true wireless, I guess the performance of true wireless in the past, was an exciting concept. It just didn't deliver, and at this stage, it certainly does. So yeah, I think great to have this whole premium category that allows that type of preference and that kind of prosumer world to come in a business grade, manageable way.
And I was going to say
cool.
the lifetime on these devices is phenomenal. It might be a significant investment for the Buds, but they last such a long time. I mean, there's literally nothing wrong with my 65Ts, and 18 months later, the battery's beautiful. The quality is awesome. But I got tempted in with the new earbuds too because they're just smaller and lighter and better in the audio profile. But it reminds me when I think about AirPods, and it is still a struggle with people using AirPods in Teams on Windows, we still have that kind of Bluetooth, connection issue that sometimes the audio quality isn't great.
Yeah.
And so when we're using like the Jabra devices, we can use that dongle and we get much better audio fidelity. You can use that hack with AirPods. You can use a Bluetooth adapter, a specific one, even the Jabra ones, with AirPods and improve your call quality. So we had a video we did a couple of years ago now, and it still just consistently keeps getting hits and comments of like how to use your AirPods with Teams on Windows, and we're saying go and buy one of these Jabra dongles. It's a 380, I think it is, and it works beautifully. It's really, really good. But it's funny that you have your premium AirPods at £250, $300, whatever it is now, and then you have to go and buy another adapter to make it work properly with Windows.
Yeah,
and you don't have that problem on Macs.
And the thing is that the service, as in Teams, does a lot of audio optimization now, so you can get away with worse devices not sounding awful because the service will try and make it better. But you've still got a very wide open mic on those AirPods. Like if you're in a cafe or a restaurant or whatever, it's picking up all sorts of stuff. Now Teams is suppressing it, but you're starting off with bad and trying to make it better. Whereas a lot of the Teams certified devices are doing that first level of suppression in the hardware, which does make a difference.
Very nice. Well, from premium products back over to premium edition.
What a slick transition, Rob.
I know, I've been thinking about that for the last minute or two. But we last month we talked about premium edition. It's hot right now, and there's a lot of conversation about it. We're still trying to figure it out, but it has been launched, and so I was keen to just understand, how's that launch gone so far? Has it met expectations? I know, Scott, you've seen it, you've played around with it. What's it like from your perspective?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. Obviously, we had the chat last month on the show, and it wasn't quite available in the UK then, just immediately at launch, even on a preview. So we've had to wait a few extra weeks, and then I managed to get hold of it last week. So we've deployed it straight away for everyone in the organization. And great, straight away we're seeing that ability to customize like the waiting screen when people are in the lobby, and so we get the branding in there now. You get a nice opportunity to just sort of brand that and showcase some of the things that you do. customize some of the colors of the buttons. That's all nice. We get the watermarking feature. That's working. So again, and Tom, I've got questions, so we'll come back to that in a second. But that's all seems to be working really nice. But I tell you what, I'm not seeing some of those awesome ChatGPT AI features that we've been promised in some of the brochures. We're still getting intelligent meeting recap, but I'm not seeing some of that really super cool stuff. I think it's still on the way.
Yeah, that's right. So it's OpenAI GPT 3.5 they promised is going to be integrated, but they're saying that's second quarter calendar 2023. So it should be between now and kind of June, maybe July time. But you're right. Those are the features that everybody's super excited about, like that idea of having meeting summaries that are customized to you. But yeah, not here yet. So another one that's people have been pleased with is the webinar features. Those seem to be really good. The extra registration capabilities, the virtual green room, that seems like good value. But I think across the board, people are still wondering where the spend makes sense. It's $7 on offer, $10 list from I think the end of June. It'll be $10. So working out whether who needs it, who doesn't, where the value is still an open conversation, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
The control what people see webinar feature is maybe one of the most important pieces of premium that not sure that everybody necessarily sees just at kind of looking at a data sheet, but this ability to make it feel like a webinar, so that when it doesn't show the team's participants on the side, it doesn't have the kind of meeting feel both in the live event and in the recording, is super important and has been long requested. And so I know this is kind of top of the list. The rest of it is there's a whole bunch of functionality around registration and the management of the meeting itself, but love the control what people see functionality.
Yeah, and the top one of the top asks is to get rid of the roster, so that's coming as well, where you'll be able to completely hide who's in the meeting and names and things like that, because that's another one, particularly in Europe, people are worried about showing display names. But yeah, you're right, Ryan, that's a really big one, and I think it's really good value, like $7-10 extra a user for webinar compared to the commercial webinar platforms is actually quite good value.
And how are we getting on with things like translation? I mean, I know we've talked about this for quite a while now, but with the whole ChatGPT thing coming in, is that improving? Is it getting better? Anyone seen anything firsthand?
Yeah, so that was an interesting one because Microsoft previewed the ability to have live translation of captions, so that therefore I can be presenting in English and someone in Spain can flick to Spanish captions in real time, and everyone was super excited. And that was originally part of Core, and then it got bumped into Premium. So it is the case, as I understand it, that only the presenters need that license to unlock that capability, not every attendee. But it's one of those slightly contentious features where it could be considered an accessibility feature, and do you monetize accessibility? Microsoft argue it's like a business benefit feature. But yeah, I haven't seen again the kind of the definitive enterprise answer as to whether they'll pay for that at scale or not.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because we have a client at the moment who heavily based in Germany and in the UK. And they're on this path to kind of merge everything together. But at the moment, they're thinking of licensing the UK side of things for Teams Premium and then turning on that translation feature. But immediately, because they're in two tenants, they're wondering, well, if the German team join and they aren't licensed for Teams Premium, are they going to be able to take advantage of that live translation of so that when they're having the conversations, they can literally sort of speak in English and have it translated into German on screen? Are the German team going to need that license? It sounds like you're saying no. It sounds like the meeting host in their tenant is the one who has the Teams Premium, and any external guest.
It depends. Frustratingly, it depends on the feature. So, like webinars, only the people presenting and organising the webinar need Premium. The other people are obviously attendees, so they get the attendee experience regardless. Things like watermarking and the security features, everybody's considered to be benefiting. So in that scenario, everybody's supposed to have the license. But in the case of caption live translation, only the presenters need to be licensed. So the attendees, be it in tenant or outside the tenant, shouldn't need that premium feature.
So let me just ask you on that watermarking feature then. So because how you phrase that is interesting, I want to be clear because I'm sure that the audience would be as well. So the main reason I might want to watermark something, and like you said earlier on the meeting rooms, this is the UPN of the attendee just sort of plastered right through the video or right through any content that's shared on the meeting. as an organization, I want to protect our IP, whatever it is we've put in the meeting or shared. And so it makes sense for our organization to have the premium license so that we have that watermarking feature. But if we're presenting to clients or partners or external people who are joining that meeting, we can't expect them to have Teams Premium. So are we saying that if they don't have Teams Premium as an external guest,
this is the mess of this feature. I definitely need to blog, don't I? Because it's like a million if this then that. But no, that if a meeting is watermarked, you can't, like, there's no way of getting into it and not having watermarked. It's a good question though. I need to look up the explicit. My expectation based on how the feature works is they will join and they will get the watermarked experience. And because they're external, they probably Microsoft don't need them to be licensed. But there's a fun kind of muddle here between how things work and how the licenses intend to work. So, I'll go away and double check what the legal license level is. But my answer would be they'll get the watermark experience because it's a watermarked meeting, or they'd be forced not to join. But I can't imagine that for external attendees would make any sense. Great question though. So this is the problem with premium is. It's a good idea in theory. Like Microsoft want to add development resource, make more money out of the product. They're a commercial company. That's super fine. But when you get all these weird edge cases, they just slow things down because people are like, well, do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? How's that work? How's this work? So there's a lot of work to do from a consulting and documentation and explanation point of view to help people understand where it fits. Yeah.
And I think you made the point earlier that the licensing generally, the rule is who's benefiting from it. And I think, like in the case of watermarking, I think it's the hosting company with their Teams Premium that are benefiting from the protection of the watermarking. And obviously the guests are consuming the content, but they have watermarked content. It feels like the benefits to the company that's hosting the meeting and having Teams Premium. But yeah, I'd be really interested to see what you follow up with. So keep us posted on that blog.
Yeah. We'll have to do a meeting, and you can join, Scott, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll test and prove.
Interesting with Teams Premium. It's going to be really interesting to see how this develops over time, because as new features and functionality are conceived or released for Teams, they're going to go in one of two paths, into core product or into Premium, and so it'll be interesting to see over time. I think the expectation is that Microsoft's going to continue to make Premium more and more attractive with new functionality. But I think certainly has to be balanced with enhancements to the core product as well.
Yeah, it will be interesting, and we've been pushing quite hard for Microsoft to be super clear early on the roadmap about is it going to be premium or not. And I think the challenge is sometimes they haven't decided when they're early in dev. So, but it's not really fair to get people all excited and then say, oh, it's gated at the last minute. But yes, you're right. The intent is to add more and more value to premium. So I fully expect we'll see more things coming that will be premium only features.
Tom, I've got an interesting question, I think, then, because it used to be that an M365 E5 license was it's got everything, it's got absolutely everything bundled in there. But what we're finding now is that we're getting Teams Premium, Intune Premium, and there are other premium SKUs that are coming out that are more add-ons,
SharePoint syntax and like loads of add-ons.
Yeah, and it feels like we're getting. I mean, I've seen some resentful comments around that. They're like, "Hey, I thought we had the best license and it has everything in, but now there's more licenses." Are you seeing much pushback or feedback around premium style licenses and these additional bolt-ons again?
Yeah, there's definitely some pushback. Not as much as I expect. I think premium on Teams got saved by AI because everybody's like, "Oh, I get." The value, I get that cost you a lot in compute, like fair enough. Then if that wasn't there, I think it would have been a very different conversation. But in general, I think Microsoft are putting add-on SKUs to a lot of products. And the argument from their point of view is, we've bundled so much into that SKU and barely raised the price, and like there's loads of value in there, which is all valid. But for enterprises or even any customer really, suddenly think, oh, I'm gated on this feature, I'm gated on that feature, just starts to be a bit annoying. So I think we'll see that battle way out. I think in Teams, kind of to Ryan's point, we'll just see them keep pumping value into premium until it becomes, oh well, I might as well just get it for everybody because there's so much value in it.
Yeah, and it could be a choice as well. I mean, we've certainly seen this happen with Business Premium as a SKU, in that they just keep adding in feature sets from other parts of what would be add-on packs or bundles. It could be if you are on M365 E5 in the future that they start to roll in some of these premium features as part of that commitment.
Are you predicting E7, Scott? Is that what you're predicting?
yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, it's going to start to be like BMW cars in the end, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe there'll be an E7. Yeah, it's got everything. Always got everything. Always the latest of the best. $74.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I mean, it's a real tension. Obviously, Microsoft, again, commercial org trying to make money, and the way these individual SKUs work, they get represented back to the product group. So you are shifting more product specific licenses. So there's some incentive there for the product teams to kind of be recognized for their efforts and to fund the development. Same thing on the room licenses. The room licenses, we went to the new model that funds doing a bunch of stuff in rooms. It's not kind of magic. Someone has to pay for all this stuff. But it does cause tension with customers. And just at the kind of pre-sales point of view, where you're like, oh, you want to do webinars? Oh, well, if you want this much, it's in the box. If you want this thing, it's in Pro. Oh, you want security? Oh, you want extra security? You want the premium, and you want E5, and you want this thing. So I guess it keeps us consultants in business explaining it all. But it's definitely interesting times.
No, it sure is. I think I'm sure, like anyone else, if you're in these conversations, M365 Maps is probably one of your favorite resources. Just going, what's in every license?
Yeah. The massive PDF grid of what's in what. But the problem with that is the detail is lacking. Like you said, it will say some webinar features are in, but are they like your watermark question would never be in a PDF. So it's really interesting how deep you have to get to truly understand this stuff.
Great stuff. Well, tons of features, tons of news, lots of hot topics in Teams World this month. Well, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for. That is it from us. Thanks, gents, for joining us today. So much good advice and top tips there. So thank you so much. And to everyone out there, if you've enjoyed today's session, please subscribe to UC Today News and give this video a quick share on social, as it's always appreciated. And if you're a Microsoft Teams fan and you want to be part of the conversation, you can join myself, Tom, and our panel of experts on LinkedIn and Twitter most of the time. And our social links are also in the description. So thanks to everyone for joining in. We'll be back again next month. I'm Rob Scott from UC Today. Thanks for watching.